Okay, it's Mike on Religion Dystopia. I want to read something, if I can. Uh, it's from forum.noblerealms.org. I'm not plugging it. I just found this, and I'm doing a little bit of research on Robert Monroe. His concept of lOOSH. Noble Realms Forum is now closed. It will remain online as a searchable archive of posts spanning from 325.4 to 222.8. Members may still log in and use email functions, blah blah blah. Okay. Noble Realms, Aliens, and Matrix. lOOSH, Robert Monroe, the Matrix Control System. And maybe it says something about how slow I am at catching up to speed with other people, but maybe not. This was posted, it says here 2004, 12:30, 12 p.m. or it doesn't say that, it just says 12. I don't know. This one it was posted, so it was 2004, 324. Topic. Once again, lOOSH, Robert Monroe, and the Matrix Control System. This is continuing the discussion from the terms and abbreviations thread about the moral slash ethical slash spiritual implications of the Earth being a lOOSH, life force energy farm. To repost Neometric's summary of what Robert Monroe learned about the lOOSH during his astral voyages. Sorry about that. My MS is pretty bad, and I don't read that well to begin with. You might ask, what does this have anything to do with what I've been posting of late, which is about quote-unquote Bigfoot and forest spirits? I don't know. There's just some thoughts that come to mind before we start reading. I'm thinking about who this or what SASQUATCH Bigfoot is. And could this be entities or peoples who rejected the light because they were thrown into the darkness, came back as this? It's a form of maybe punishment, torment, possibly. I don't know, but there is a possibility if it's true that the DNA sample says it comes from a human woman and unknown male. Are these spirits, beings, entities that have been thrown here to torment? What connection do they have with aliens? If you watch the previous video that I posted, and you look at the connection with aliens, orbs, UFOs, and Bigfoot. Are they simply sentinels? Are they simply sent by these entities to drive us away from certain areas? Trees are mostly made out of water, just like human beings. Great conductors of electricity. You'll find a lot of these things showing up around bodies of water. Rivers, great conductors of electricity. There's any connection? I don't know. It seems to be. There seems to be correlations. Causation? I'm not sure. Anyways, lOOSH. This is from Robert Monroe, once again, in his astral voyages. I'm not saying this is true or false. I just find this might be another piece of the puzzle. Just a clarification about that, though, a common misconception about lOOSH harvesting often arises from people only telling one side of that story. Whereas Monroe initially fell into a rather severe depression when he discovered this system, he later was shown exactly how this lOOSH energy was being utilized. I am going to give a quick overview of it because it is definitely worthy of consideration. Bear in mind, though, that as Bob himself was told, it is hard to put universal processes into a perspective that can be unequivocally understood by our human minds. The earth, it would appear, was the creation of a, quote, someone, end quotes, coming from a, quote, somewhere, for the purposes of cultivating this lOOSH harvest. Apparently, lOOSH is of great value in somewhere, but is relatively scarce and hard to find. This someone coming from somewhere was the being slash entity slash intelligence that created the Earth life system that we see in effect upon this planet today. In the course of experimentation, it was discovered that lOOSH was emitted in a very unrefined state as a natural byproduct of carbon slash oxygen life cycle taking place on the Earth. Once again, carbon slash oxygen life cycle taking place on Earth. In the earliest stages, what we know as single-cell aquatic life forms, this unrefined lOOSH could only be harvested in small quantities at the exact moment of death. Later experimentation brought about plants, which were higher order lOOSH producers than unrefined lOOSH. The best quality lOOSH was eventually found to be produced during the struggle for survival conflicts that took place between the smaller, less well-armed mobiles that consumed the plants and the bigger, stronger predators that consumed the smaller mobiles. These were what we now call the dinosaurs. Although these mobiles produced much better quality lOOSH, they were found to be too large and too long in lifespan to be practical in the long term. In one single moment, someone terminated the lifespans of these creatures, i.e. the extinction of the dinosaurs event, and quickly replaced them with smaller, faster mobile units, which resulted in even higher lOOSH output. As a side experiment, someone also created a very different form of mobile, humans. Although comparatively weak and ineffective, this variety of mobile could take energy from from both plants and animals. Also, someone pulled forth a piece of himself to act as a very unique catalyst. This new mobile would be subjected to a strong need for constant mobility, always seeking reunion with the whole in somewhere from which someone came. Although it came as a great surprise to someone, It was from this side experiment that pure and distilled lOOSH was found to be automatically created. It was generated when those units were in conflict with other units to protect their young offspring, and also generated a large amount when they felt lonely. When one of these lonely units sensed the presence of someone, it began to cry and generate large amounts of very high order lOOSH energy. Someone then included this fundamental baseline in his formula. The creation of pure distilled lOOSH is brought forth in humans by the action of unfulfillment, but only if such pattern is enacted at a vibratory level above the sensory bounds of the environment. The generator of intensity of said pattern, the greater of output of lOOSH distillant. This feeling of loneliness was also magnified by splitting all mobiles into two genders, ever seeking reunion with each other. The most common tools, in quotes, to promote production of lOOSH are things like love, friendship, family, greed, hate, pain, guilt, disease, pride, ambition, ownership, possession, sacrifice. And on a larger scale, nations, provincialism, war, famine, religion, machines, freedom, industry, trade, etc. You might say medicine as well. Given this, it should be apparent that lOOSH production today would be at an all-high time. At an all-high time, excuse me. I did not say that right. God have mercy on me. Let's try this again. Given this, it should be apparent that lOOSH production today would be at an all-time high. I don't know why I couldn't say that. I know why I can't, because of the MS. So all of this carries the implication that the primary function of life here, especially of human life, is to learn to be very high quality lOOSH producers. This energy which we radiate has a very important function in various other levels of creation. My point in all of this is to attempt to make clear that this harvesting or farming is not a negative thing that we should all rail against. It is in fact the very purpose of our existence here. Without someone somewhere, the Earth life system and we humans living within it would not exist. It also shows that we view from our perspective as negative, in quotes, events, thoughts and emotions are all merely a part of the lOOSH spectrum of radiation. The exalting of virtues, the perceived positive, in quotes, forms over the negative, in quotes, ones, is wholly redundant. Suppressing negative feelings, as advocated by the Love and Light Brigade, actually runs contrary to the design. Additionally, whilst the concept of someone from somewhere would fit very neatly into our human ideas or ideals of God in heaven, Monroe was told that someone was a creator that was created. and that somewhere itself is a system that was created. Interesting stuff indeed. Thanks for listening. And then they go through these comments, and I don't know if I want to deal with that right now. Let's see. Maybe we'll read more about something down the line. I gotta play the video. Robert Monroe, lOOSH, Earth's History as a lOOSH Farm, at the end of this recording. And we'll see what we could do here. Let me show you some images of lOOSH producers. I wonder if these interactions that we have with these entities called Bigfoot, dogmen, cryptids, etc., are forms of lOOSH production. After all, they do a lot more scaring and tormenting and causing fear than actually killing. They could be demonic in nature as well, but who knows? There's definitely a spiritual element to it all. It's undeniable. Yeah, this image I took here is very hard to see. Good luck in figuring it out. But I figured it out. There's like almost like is it an arm? A shoulder by chance? Is it? There seems to be multiple heads, but there seems to be a head right here. Always again, there's a head. Maybe one of you guys could take a still and pop it out and see what are these multiple entities showing up here. There seems to be one right here. There seems to be another one right here. There seems to be, once again, the totem thing going on. It's rather distorted, isn't it? Because it's taken from under a bridge. There's another example. This is, and so, but it's right in here. This is the middle of my town. Across the stream, there's something going on there. I don't have the software anymore to bring it out, but it seems to me that we're dealing with multiple entities. We can see a half head there going on again. Them popping out of a tree. Are they trying to cause lOOSH out of me? Draining me? There seems to be a smaller one there. And once again, there's that one. So there's something going on right here. There seems to be, I know there's like a log right here too, but it seems almost like, I don't know, there's something going on there. Maybe when you guys would take your snipping tool and bring that out for me, will you? I don't feel like I want to do it. I'll let you do it. Maybe do some teamwork here. Interesting too is there is something going on right here too. Multiple heads stacking up. There's one right there as well. There's one right there. There's one right here. There's something going on. I mean, there's, and this is a closer look at that one right there. You can see it behind the whatever that is. Is that a part of the bridge? That's a tree. There's multiple heads in there. It is a freak show. This is a stream that runs through my town. You can see I'm on the other side here. There's a bridge, a walking bridge. And you can see the shadows that's right in here, right in this area. I wish it was just my imagination. What's going on with these things too? They almost seem tormented. Let's see. Oh, is that a different perspective or a different part? We still got some more weirdness going on in here. Let's go back, see what we're looking at. I haven't looked at this images in a while. Is it in this area? Is it in this area? You see, once it gets too big, it gets too pixelated. Would I, zoom in too much? But something's going on. Is it over here? Maybe it's over there. Let's see. I think that's what it is. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's got to be right here. So something in the darkness is going on there as well. Something going on right there. Those with good cameras, a good computer, good software. Take your snipping tool and make a copy and see what you can bring out in that tangled mess of spirits and branches and leaves. And this is the location. Haroon Community Park. It's too big and too pixelated when I zoom in too much. But something might be going on in this tree as well. Gets a little blurry. I don't know if you notice that. When you see little blurry things like that, it's a good chance that something's going on there. It's might surprise you, especially when you got people walking down the path. This again is this 2 Saturdays ago. Might be going back there soon, although it's only 350 yards away from where I'm sitting right now. I've been down there. I didn't go down the ravine anyway, so I'm not going there without. Well, there's no point. Although my friend offered the opportunity to, if he would join me, he might go down here and we get some measurements during the day and see how high this teepee structure is and have him stand by it. Also, there's something over here. There's like a log right here, and on the other side of that log, which I believe is what a Bigfoot is right here. We can see how, have my friend stand there, and we'll see how big that Bigfoot was. There's the example of him right there again, right there. Actually, it seems that there was more than just one thing going on. There's something going on right here. But, and I know I showed this before, but this clear eye capture something right here. You can see the face. There's the eyes, the nose, the gray face. There's a teepee structure. There doesn't seem to be anything in there. There might be something right there. But to carry on with these images, we'll see another example. There might be something going on right in here. Once again, top of the teepee structure, there's him standing from behind. It's a pretty big thing, whatever it is. Oh shit. I think it's just an example of take a let's go back here. So we have him there, and actually I take another image, and it moves and I move. There's something going on here now. Right here, but you can't really tell. As you can see, it's pretty empty in there. It's pointing that out. There's something going on right there. I don't know what it is. So now there's another picture, and you'll see that the entity has moved. I moved as well a little bit, it looks like. But the entity definitely has moved, and you can see the head is different now. It's much more distorted, and from the branches and the leaves and all that, you can see that it doesn't look the same anymore. So there's movement going on one way or the other. It almost looks like now there's an entity behind this tree in front of whatever is right here. Boy, that could be an optical illusion. Yeah, I can't tell. Things start to change within inside the teepee as well. Once again, you can see there's not much going on there. You can see it pretty clear. Another example of how there was movement. There's also some entities and stuff going on, but this is another shot, and this time you can start to see something inside the teepee structure. There actually is something inside the teepee structure now. And what it is, I'm not quite sure. Let me go back and we can see, okay, there's something right there you could barely, right, it's different. Is it just positioning of the camera? I didn't move that much. And we're talking just a matter of a foot here and there on my position. But then there seems to be something going on there. And we can see this is what was I filmed inside it. It's blurry. Of course, it's distance. And maybe one of you can take a snipping tool or follow me, or anybody who's following me. Take a snipping tool and see if you can bring out the entity. Now there's something going on here. You can see there's almost like a mask. Some people talk about how these things use like a mask or something. And I think they do, or spirits do, or they try to make it look like a mask. But just pay attention to the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. You can see that. Once again, that's that image close up. There is something in there. There's where that mask is at a different location I filmed earlier, and there might be something going on down here and here, but there's something going on there. We'll go back here, and then the next shot, it's no longer there. Same position, you just take it, you see it moves slightly, matter of inches, but you still see the same space. It's no longer there. We go back here too, and then this thing right here, something happens right here. Kind of freaky. Of course, popping out of a tree again. Looks like a head. Once again, we have a few more things that seem to be things popping out of the tree. Freakness. Now, you've probably seen some of this in the video I did previously. Well, I know you have if you bothered to look. So I'm just showing you some stuff that you've seen before and after. There is something going on here, but I couldn't get it. I don't have the program, but something's in there peeping in through there. Another forest spirit? Or just an optical illusion? There definitely is something in there. What it is, I'm not sure. Let's see what happens when we magnify this. We can see that there's something in there now. And this is the same time period that I filmed that Bigfoot. I don't see it in that location anymore. I don't know what that is. It's just a log, most likely. Most likely. And during that same weekend, I don't know if it's the same day or not, it was on the 5th of November. Is that Guy Fawkes Day? Is that what that is? Should know. I spent a lot of time researching the Jesuits. And there's some weirdness going on in here. There's definitely some weirdness going on in there. Now mind you, this is a path running alongside the road. This is on the other side of the creek from Kroger's in the middle of town. So there's something going on. If we just take a little closer look, there is some things going on right around here. There's definitely something going on here. Feel free to take any snipping tool and find if you can find something. Bring it out. Let me know if you do. I'll even give you credit for being the one that brings it out. For whatever it's worth, not much probably. But there is something going on here. There's something also going on up here. And in here. Shadows, shadow people, shadow entities, darkness, dark entities. Are these actual sentient beings or are these spirits? I think they're probably more spirits than anything. Could be just pareidolia as well. I don't think so. Some of this stuff is definitely not pareidolia. Something going on in there. I can see how that could be the leaves causing that rounding there. But there seems to be eyes in the mouth. And we'll see what's going on here. There seems to might be something going on right here. Shadowy, ethereal type being. You can see the density of what it is that, this is fall now. Just imagine what it is in wintertime. I mean summertime. How you could hardly be able to see anything. You can see tree leaves being created right there. And it's right behind Kroger's, where there's a dumpster. So you can see the tree leaves. Is that the dumpster? Oh no, maybe that's not behind Kroger's. Maybe we're still in that ravine. Because this is a ravine. On this side going this way, would be to our right, is a giant cemetery that's locked up at night. And the other side is going into the old part of my town. This ravine, as we go further in a little ways, we've filmed the teepee structure. This is where the ravine is. The portion of the ravine where to the left right here is where, if you look down the ravine, is where the teepee structure is. You can see that this is the beginnings, or maybe not the beginnings, but deliberate kind of tree structure. Now, I know I've shown this before in the video. Another thing I noticed too is this strangeness. It's this trunk. It could be just pareidolia. It would be a perfect example of pareidolia. It also could be a perfect example of how they might just be digging away and distorting. Look at that branch there. The tree didn't make. They can do that. This is what I see every day when I go to my car. In fact, every time I look out my kitchen window, I see this. It's like a little gift they gave me. And you see like the eyes, and there, it's almost like it's crying. Or they watch me, they feed off me. Let's go back to this lOOSH thing. Feeding off my heartache and pain and suffering through what I've gone through in my life. Everyone goes through their own. For me, is multiple sclerosis and being isolated, alone, and everything else, disease and all that. Not getting a chance to spend time with my son. Is it a form of? Is this a mockery? It's make fun of me? Is it a delusion on my own part? You tell me. But it's very interesting. So you have to look at that every freaking day. Perfect example of how something that's allegedly is pareidolia, and if you look real closely, the way it's all acted, the way it looks, it almost looks like fingers and a mouth, and then peeking through this log. Now, I have pretty good imagination for sure, but it's pretty ironic. By the way, I've seen numerous times how they have manipulated the foliage and the trees and etc. But it's not even not even original idea on my part. To do is ask shamans and Native Americans and other people who have been dealing with this stuff forever and a day. Part of their culture. So there it is again. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If it's just a camera anomaly or simple pareidolia, they did a damn good job of making it look so. Or the pareidolia. It takes... I have pretty good imagination, but it takes a little more than imagination than that. Now, something's going on here, too, when I was filming, as I was walking away. And there's something going on right here. And there's something going on right here. And the ethereal nature of it as well. It's getting darker out, and there's no sunlight that day. But there's definitely something popping out behind us. And I strongly encourage any of you, and anybody that follows this, to take your snipping tool, take a picture of this, and see if you can find what I'm seeing, or maybe something even better. Strange anomalies when it comes to the trees. Things look like they're popping out of it, and they ain't owls. Let's see, is this the end of it? Now there seems to be some ethereal entity going on right here. Is it pareidolia? Is it coincidental? I have filmed multiple tree spirits, some that look awfully big. That even dwarf Bigfoot. Or dogmen. Something's going on around there. That's where it is right there again. You see how bad the drought was, or has been. Starting to get some snow this week. Not much. There is, and I shared this on Sean's show, some of these images on Sean's show, Chasing the Truth, with Sean G on YouTube. There is something there, and I encourage anybody to take their snipping tool and look carefully and see if they can find something in there. Because there's something in there. Same thing going on here. I still have not given up on this whole idea that there is something going on in here. Seen too many other entities that almost look just like that. And you can see these where they're hiding out under the canopy. You see how deep the shadow is. Perfect example. Whether they're terrestrial biological entities or if they're spiritual. Regardless, perfect, hiding in the shadows. Once there's right there, and there's something going on right there. And you can see this whole idea. Now this right here, this is interesting because these are different entities. And there'll be something going on right in here. I think it's right here it is. Let's see what the next image is. I think we get closer to there. And there's something right there with the round head, the eyes, and that shadowy entity, the blocking out some of the branches. There's something right here as well. There might be something in here too, but I definitely know there's something here and here. Maybe something right here. Let's see if we can get a better image. I took multiple images So right in here, there is something kind of materializing. And there's something materializing here. I don't know if anyone has the snipping tool and decent software. Maybe you can find something. Maybe you can prove to me that I'm wrong. I'd be perfectly happy with that as well. I've seen these things numerous times with my own eyes and filmed them, so I don't really need anybody's approval of whether I'm right or not, for me personally, because I've just had enough experience. I don't care. I'm just sharing it with you folks. And you might guess, why, Mike? I think it's because we're dealing with something that's much deeper than we realize. There is something going on right here too. The ethereal being showing up. This strange movement. A little contorted face looking. But you almost see the pig nose. It being twisted and all that. It makes it look like I beat up, but I don't think so. I think it just moved a little bit, or my camera movement. This is where it is right here. There's probably more things going on. Let's see. So it's right here. Let's see if you can remember. So now it's going to be somewhere in this area or above. Let's see if we can find it. I'm not finding it. Probably got the wrong location. Shoulders are burning. Is it the same picture? Let's see if we can find this. Thank you for your patience, if anybody's watching this. So there's the plants right there. There's that head right there. I gotta maybe I need to go lower in that picture. That's what I gotta do. There he is. He's right there. So he's right here in the lower left corner of it. I was looking up here instead of down here. You see some tree structures as well. More tree structures in the middle of my town. There's some interesting things going on around it if we get to it. This might be the one that has some interesting entities along with the tree structure. Might be the one. Man, my left side's burning so bad. Doing a computer is just, it's getting more difficult for me. Man. Is that the same one? Oh, this is a different one. This one definitely has some weirdness going on in this one. You'll see something going on right here. You'll see something going on right here. Mr. Blue and his buddies. There's something going on right here. Something going on right there. Maybe you could take a snipping tool and take an image of that and see what you can find. Now you can see there's a teepee structure right there. That's blurry. But there's something going on there. You see how blurry it is, and part of it's light refraction, or anomalies from the light in the camera lens. But if you look real closely, if you look a little more closely, you see that there's something spiritual, magical going on in that picture. There might be something going on there, I'm not sure. Maybe just the darkness. Strange tree. This tree has had, right in this area, I filmed many, I filmed a portal. And many spirits. You see this, some of the X structures that they threw up in there. This X structure, more like star structure. Oops. There's that image again. Along by the creek. There's more of that star structure. Better take a break. I come back and finish it. I only got about 5 more minutes of this. Alright, so I've taken a little break and I'm back. Sorry for my lengthy videos, but I don't know how to do them any short. I guess I could do them shorter, but... And, yeah, this is a lot of stuff going on here, I think. Maybe. Something could be going on there. I'm sure there's probably something going on in there. I haven't really checked this image too much. There might be something going on in there. Might be. It's interesting how the light interacts with the trees. You would have a hard time knowing if you were seeing something or not. Yeah, might be something going on right here. I wonder if my town is a portal in its own right. Let's see what we got going on here. Anything? Yeah, there might be something going on in there. This is that tree break that this is the day after I filmed the teepee structure in the middle of my town. And this is the fresh tree break. You can see the leaves are still on it. Here's a teepee structure, another one I found in my town. A little rough one. There might be something going on here. Could be just pareidolia, or could be something more going on. The formation of maybe a teepee structure. Spirits, maybe. There seems to be something going on here, whatever it is. As you can see, there's like an X structure and a teepee structure combined. There's that star shape. Some of the images I filmed that day, that would be Sunday, the day after I filmed. My town doesn't have a lot. I guess a good way to look at it. My town doesn't have a lot of parks. But what it does have is golf courses and cemeteries and some common areas with a stream running through it. I think that's the key ingredient. And you end up getting stuff like this in the middle of your town. Something like a Bigfoot, lOOSH, or a Dogman, or something. Something, a combination thereof. A grass man. Boogers. Yes, this is some images I filmed last week. And a different part of town near Centennial Park. Something decided to see, what is it? Near Payset or two. It's near the quarries. Light interaction with the trees. What I look every day at from my driveway. Something going on funky right here. Well, the squirrel's right there. Bit of a spiritual manifestation, maybe. Pareidolia, spiritual manifestation. I'm sure I wouldn't have showed it to you if I thought it was strictly pareidolia. Shadows. The use of shadows. Use of shadows or shadow entity. They do like to live in the shadows. Neighbor's house. A lot of the trees are dying. My God, are they dying? I guess the question is, why are they dying? Is it simply the emerald ash borer? Well, they have gotten bored with the ash trees and they're going after everything else now. Something's going on around here, maybe. Yes, so back to the trail there, leading from the Fossil Park to the Paysetter Park. Examples of shadows. How they use the shadows. Found a nice X structure right there in that trail. Another one. Oh, there's that Bigfoot that I filmed, and whatever the hell that thing is. This was filmed in May 16th. You can see the two eyes right there, the black head. And then this, so you use some kind of mask or something. An orb I filmed on October the 29th in Maumee Bay State Park. And it's got a monkey looking head down it. In it. Well, I'll go back to that just to remind you. This is an entity this is a neighbor's yard. This is a location where a teepee structure that I found in 2017 was just down the hill from the dumpster where Little Caesar and other restaurants dump their waste. I filmed this entity as well in a grove. If you pay attention to it and the movement and all that. By the way, this is not too far from Main Fairway. This is a pretty interesting image. Right in here, this is where the quarries and all that. You see a lot of white cedar here, and it starts to feel almost deserty like. Of course, this is fall, so a lot of the trees don't have their leaves, so they look half dead. But there's something going on right in here. A shadow entity of some sort. Shadow, just out of the blue. Just right there. A lot of activity around there for tree structures and that. What is it? Who knows? Oh, these are other people's images. Of course, it's the show I did. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, we'll look at this one out again. This is Jupiter with his moons that I filmed with my P900. I found this in the middle of the sky. Notice the red light and the lines. Found this long threaded thing in the sky. Notice that the red light now is shifted here, and now there's a white light there. The two lines. Is it a plane? And there's a red line again. And that's an image of one of the what I call Bigfoot tree ape that I filmed in the many entities I filmed in Maumee Bay State Park. You'll notice that the leg almost has like heads too. There's multiple entities. There's the hand grabbing around the branch. And I think that's it. So anyways, there's more images to come. I still a lot of old images I still got to share with you. But I wanted to do a video, and I want to talk about Bigfoot and the lOOSH. This things that the spiritual realm feeds upon. The psychic, emotional, spiritual energy that emits from us. Are we in some kind of loop, if you will, some kind of reincarnation, eternal life loop, this matrix, in which, or there's something more going on? And I don't want to sound like I don't have faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but I am asking questions, and there's still many questions that have not been answered in this life. You're going to listen to this next 22 minutes of a reading from Bob Monroe's book. I can't remember the book now, but it doesn't matter. It's just explaining what the lOOSH is. So, thank you for listening if you did, and have a great day.
My percept is that it fits. I got another road, and when I overlay the two, one of them is certainly wild. I blanked. What road is that? The one we got in the TSI brochure about the places and things we would be visiting. All about Earth and humans, how it got started, what it's for, all that stuff. I closed, then opened slowly. They don't match up? Here, get your own percept. BB tossed a road at me, and I took it curiously, and unfolded it. Click. Someone somewhere, or both, in millions or uncountable, requires, likes, needs, values, collects, drinks, eats, or uses as a drug a substance ident lOOSH. Electricity, oil, oxygen, gold, wheat, water, land, old coins, uranium. This is a rare substance in somewhere, and those who possess lOOSH find it vital for whatever it is used for. Faced with this question of supply and demand, a universal law of somewhere, someone decided to produce it artificially, so to speak, rather than search for it in its natural form. He decided to build a garden and grow lOOSH. In the natural state, lOOSH was found to originate from a series of vibrational actions in the carbon-oxygen cycle, and the residue was lOOSH in varying degrees of purity. It occurred only during such action and secondarily during the reactive process. Prospectors from somewhere ranged far and wide in search of lOOSH sources, and new discoveries were hailed with much enthusiasm and reward. So it was that someone in his garden changed all this. Far off in a remote area, he set to work on his experiment. First, he created a proper environment for the carbon-oxygen cycle where it would flourish. He created a balance with much care so that proper radiation and other nourishment would be in continuous supply. He then tried his first crop, which actually did produce lOOSH, but only in small quantities and of comparatively low grade, not significant enough to take back to the heart of somewhere. The problem was twofold. The life period was too short, and the crop units themselves were too minute. This brought about limits in quality and quantity, as the crop had no time to generate lOOSH in such close tolerances. Moreover, the lOOSH could be harvested only at the moment of termination of the lifespan, not one moment before. His second crop was no better, if as good. He changed the environment to another part of the garden where the density was gaseous rather than liquid, and the higher density chemicals formed a solid base, and thus were still available. He planted numberless units in many varieties in a new form, with a great increase in size, some many thousands of times larger and more complex than the simple unicellular first crop. He reversed the carbon-oxygen cycle. Yet all had a basic uniformity. Like the first crop, they would reseed at regular intervals and terminate their lifespans automatically. To avoid the uneven distribution of chemicals and radiation which had been prevalent in the first crop, he immobilized the second crop. Each was designed to stay principally in its own section of the garden. To this end, each was given firm tendrils which burrowed deep into the more dense chemical matter. Attached to this was a stem or trunk which helped elevate the upper portion upward for its share of needed radiation. The upper portion, broad, thin, and somewhat fragile, was designed as a transducer of carbon-oxygen compounds to and from the crop unit. As an added thought, brilliant color radiators accompanied by small particle generators were mounted on each unit, usually near the top and symmetrically centered. He set up circulating patterns in the gaseous envelope around the crop, principally to aid in the reseeding process. Later, he discovered that the same turbulent effect served as a means of harvesting the lOOSH. If the turbulence were violent enough, the crop would be blown down, the lifespan terminated, and the lOOSH would discharge. This was especially useful when an immediate lOOSH supply was desired at a particular point rather than at harvest time. Despite all of this, the second crop was most unsatisfactory. While it was true that a much greater quantity was attained, the unrefined lOOSH produced was of such low grade that it was scarcely worth the effort. In addition, the growth period was now too long and no increase in quality resulted. Some vital element was missing. Someone hovered over his garden for a long period in study before he attempted the third crop. It was indeed a challenge. True, he was partially successful. He had grown lOOSH. Yet the product of his efforts fell far short of the wild, uncultivated variety. It was inevitable that he perceived the answer. The third crop was living proof of this truth. The original carbon-oxygen cycle must be included. Mobility must be restored. Both factors had shown great promise in high-grade lOOSH production. If size could be added to this, much could be accomplished. With this plan in the forefront, someone removed various sample units from the first crop, which was still thriving in the liquid portion of the garden. He modified them to exist and grow in the gaseous area. He adapted them first to take nourishment from the second crop, which he permitted to abound for this very purpose. Thus it was that the first of the mobiles, the third crop, came into being. The mobiles took nourishment from the second crop, thus ending its lifespan and producing low-grade lOOSH. When each huge mobile terminated its own lifespan, additional lOOSH was produced. The quantity was massive, but the frequency pattern of the lOOSH residue still left much to be desired. It was by accident that someone came upon the prime catalyst as regards lOOSH production. The monstrous and slow-moving mobiles had a lifespan far out of proportion to their nourishment input. The growth and life termination process was of such length that soon the mobiles would all but decimate the second crop. The entire garden would be out of balance, and there would be no lOOSH production whatsoever. Both the second and third crop faced extinction. As the second crop grew scarce, energy needs of the mobiles became acute. Often 2 mobiles would seek to ingest the identical second crop unit. This created conflict, which resulted in physical struggle among 2 or more of the ungainly mobiles. Someone observed these struggles, at first bemused with the problem, then with great interest. As the struggles ensued, the mobiles were emanating lOOSH, not in fractional amounts, but in sizable, usable quantities and of a much higher purity. He quickly put the theory to the test. He removed another unit of first crop from the liquid garden area, redesigned it for the gaseous environment, but with one significant change. The new mobile would be somewhat smaller, but would require the ingestion of other mobiles for nourishment. This would solve the problem of overpopulation of mobiles, and at the same time would create good quantities of usable lOOSH during each conflict struggle, plus a bonus if the new class of mobile terminated the lifespan of the other. Someone would be able to transmit to somewhere practical amounts of reasonably pure lOOSH. Thus it was that the rule of the prime catalyst came into being. Conflict among carbon-oxygen cycle units brings forth consistent emanations of lOOSH. It was as simple as that. Satisfied that he had found the formula, someone prepared the fourth crop. He now knew that the third crop mobiles were too large and too long in lifespan to be ultimately practical. If grown in large numbers, the entire garden would have to be expanded and enlarged. There was not space enough to grow such massive single units and the proportionate leafy second crops to support them. Also, he reasoned correctly that more rapid and increased mobility would expand the conflict factor, with the resultant higher lOOSH output. In one single motion, someone terminated the lifespans of all the lumbering third crop mobiles. Going back to the first crop in the liquid area, he modified and expanded them into a multitude of shapes and sizes, gave them complex multicellular structures of high mobility. He designed them into a pattern of balance. There were those that ingested a second crop type of carbon cycle unit, basically immobile, as an energy source. There were others, very highly mobile, who required for energy the ingestion of other mobile modified first crop units. The completed circuit operated quite satisfactorily. The stationary second crop modification in the liquid environment flourished. Small, highly active liquid-breathing mobiles took nourishment, ate the second crop modification. Larger and/or other active mobiles consumed for energy the smaller plant eaters. When any mobile grew too large and slow, it became an easy target for the smaller mobiles, who attacked in voracious numbers. The chemical residue from these ingestive actions settled to the bottom of the liquid medium, and so provided new nourishment for the stationaries, modified second crop, completing the circuit. The result was a steady flow of lOOSH, from the lifespan termination of the stationaries, from the intense conflict among the mobiles to avoid ingestion, and finally from the sudden termination of the lifespans of such mobiles as the inevitable product of such conflicts. Turning to another portion of his garden, the gaseous area with a dense compound base, someone applied the same techniques with even more advanced improvements. He added many varieties of stationaries, original second crop, to provide sufficient and diverse nourishment for the new mobiles he was to create. As in the other garden area, he made such mobiles into a balance of two species: those who ingested and drew energy from the second crop stationaries, and those who required other mobiles for sustenance. He created them in literally thousands of original types, small, large, yet none so large as the third crop mobiles, and ingeniously gave each some appurtenance for conflict. These took the form of mass, elusive speed, deceptive and/or protective coating and/or color radiation, wave action and particle perceptors and detectors, and unique, higher density protuberances for gouging, grasping, and rending during conflict. All of the latter served neatly to add to and prolong the conflict periods, with resultant increase in lOOSH emanation. As a side experiment, someone designed and created one form of mobile that was weak and ineffective by the standards of the other mobiles in the fourth crop. Yet this experimental mobile had two distinct advantages. It had the ability to ingest and take energy from both the stationaries and other mobiles. Second, someone pulled forth a piece of himself, no other source of such substance being known or available, to act as an intensive ultimate trigger to mobility. Following the rule of attraction, someone knew that such infusion would create in this particular mobile species an unceasing mobility. Always, it would seek to satisfy the attraction this tiny motive himself engendered as it sought reunion with the infinite whole. Thus, the drive for satisfaction of energy requirements through ingestion would not be the only motivating force. More important, the needs and compulsions created by the piece of someone could not be satiated throughout the garden. Thus, the need for mobility would be ever present, and the conflict between this need and that of energy replacement would be constant, possibly a continuous, high-order lOOSH emanator if it survived. The fourth crop exceeded all of someone's expectations. It became apparent that a consistent, useful flow of lOOSH was being produced in the garden. The balance of life operated perfectly, with the conflict factor producing immense amounts of lOOSH and a steady supplement brought into being by the constant lifespan terminations from all types of mobiles and stationaries. To handle the output, someone set up special collectors to aid in the harvest. He set up channels to convey the raw lOOSH from his garden to somewhere. No longer did somewhere depend principally upon the wild state as the principal source of lOOSH. The garden of someone had ended that. With the success of the garden and the production of lOOSH by cultivated means, others began to design and build their gardens. This was in accordance with the law of supply and demand. Vacuum is an unstable condition, as the amounts of lOOSH from someone's garden only partially met the requirements of somewhere. Collectors, on behalf of the others, actually entered the garden of someone to take advantage of those small emanations of lOOSH overlooked or ignored by the collectors of someone. Someone, his work completed, returned to somewhere and occupied himself with other matters. lOOSH production stayed at a constant level under the supervision of the collectors. The only alterations were ordered by someone himself. Under instructions from someone, the collectors periodically harvested segments of the fourth crop. This was done to ensure adequate chemicals, radiation, and other nourishment for the younger oncoming units. A secondary purpose was to provide occasional extra amounts of lOOSH created by such harvesting. To reap such harvest, the collectors generated storms of turbulence and turmoil in both the gaseous envelope and the more solid chemical formations that were the base of the garden itself. Such upheavals had the effect of terminating lifespans of multitudes of the fourth crop as they were crushed under the rolling base formation or smothered under waves from the agitated liquid area of the garden. By peculiarity of design, fourth crop units could not maintain their carbon-oxygen cycle surrounded by the liquid medium. The garden pattern of life might have gone on thus throughout eternity, had it not been for the perception and inquisitiveness of someone. On occasion, he would study samples of lOOSH from his garden. There was no motive in doing so other than the fact that someone may have held a remote continuing interest in his project. On a particular analysis of a lOOSH sample, someone had casually examined the emanations and was about to return it to the reservoir when he became aware of a difference. It was very slight, but there it was. His interest centered immediately. He looked again. Woven delicately in with the more common lOOSH emanations was a slender fragment of purified and distilled lOOSH. This was an impossibility. Purified and distilled lOOSH resulted only after the wild state lOOSH had been processed many times. The lOOSH from the garden of someone required the same treatment before it could be used. Yet here it was, so finely graded in its refined radiations that it could or would not return into compound with the raw substance. Someone reaffirmed his tests, and the result was still positive. There was a factor in his garden of which he was unaware. Quickly, someone left somewhere and returned to his garden. Outwardly, all seemed the same. The solid base gaseous areas of the garden were an endless carpet of green reflection from the thriving second crop. The modified first crop in the liquid area was in perfect accord with the action-reaction law, a division of cause and effect. Someone perceived without delay that the difference, the source of distilled lOOSH, lay neither with the first nor with the second crop. He found his first momentary touch of distilled lOOSH emanation in one of the units of the fourth crop, which had by then filtered throughout the plantings of the second crop. The flash came during the unusual action of this unit as it entered into a life-terminating struggle with another fourth crop unit. This alone would not create distilled lOOSH, someone knew, and he probed deeper for the source. It was at that moment that he discovered the difference. The fourth crop unit was not struggling in conflict over an ingestible remnant of a weaker fourth crop unit, or a tasty frond from a nearby second crop stem, or to avoid termination of life and ingestion by the other conflicting fourth crop unit. It was in conflict to protect and save from life termination three of its own newly generated species huddled under a large second crop unit waiting for the outcome. There was no doubt about it. This was the action that produced the flashes of distilled lOOSH. With this clue, someone examined the actions of other fourth crop units in the garden. He found similar flashes when other fourth crop units took the same action in defense of their young. Still, there was an inconsistency. The sum of all such flashes of distilled lOOSH emanation from all such actions by the current fourth crop would not amount to half of the total he had found in the sample from the reservoir. It was obvious that another factor was present. Systematically, he hovered over the garden, extending his perception to all areas. Almost immediately, he found the source. High-order distilled lOOSH radiation was originating from one particular section of the garden. Quickly, he hurried to the spot. There it was, an experimental modified fourth crop unit, one of those that contained a piece of himself in its functional pattern. It was standing alone under the leafy upper portion of a large second crop unit. It was not hungry. It was not in conflict with another fourth crop unit. It was not acting in defense of its young. Then why did it emanate distilled lOOSH in such great quantity? Someone moved closer. His perception entered into the modified fourth crop unit, and then he knew. The unit was lonely. It was this effect that produced distilled lOOSH. As someone drew back, he noted another unusual inconsistency. The modified fourth crop unit suddenly had become aware of his presence. It had collapsed and was jerking in strange convulsions on the solid base formation. Clear liquid was being expelled from the two radiation-perceiving orifices. With this, the distilled lOOSH emitted became even more pronounced. It was from this that someone propounded his now famous DLP formula, which is in effect in the garden at this time. The balance of the story is well known. Someone included the fundamental in his formula. The creation of pure distilled loosh is brought forth in type 4M units by the action of unfulfillment, but only if such pattern is enacted at a vibratory level above the sensory bounds of the environment. The greater the intensity of said pattern, the greater the output of loosh distillate. To put the formula into effect, someone designed subtle changes in his garden, all of them familiar to every historian. The splitting of all crop units into halves to engender loneliness as they sought to reunite, and the encouragement of dominance of the Type 4M units are but two of the most noteworthy innovations. As it appears now, the garden is a fascinating spectacle of efficiency. The collectors have long since become masters at the art of the DLP formula. Type 4M units dominate and have spread throughout the entire garden, with the exception of the deeper portions of the liquid medium. These are the principal producers of loosh distillate. From experience, the collectors have evolved an entire technology with supplementary tools for the harvesting of loosh from the Type 4M units. The most common have been named love, friendship, family, greed, hate, pain, guilt, disease, pride, ambition, ownership, possession, sacrifice, and on a larger scale, nations, provincialism, wars, famine, religion, machines, freedom, industry, trade, to list a few. Loosh production is higher than ever before. Click. I was closed tightly, turned inward, stunned. My first reaction was there had to be some mistake. This was not the story history of Earth. BB had mixed it up with some other port of call on their cruise schedule. Yet as I ran the road again, the overlay of what little I knew of Earth's zoological and human history was uncomfortably accurate, albeit from another perspective. The food chain of Earth's ecobiologic systems had been well established. Knowing this about Mother Nature, some of the hardcore philosophic speculators had often pondered where the human animal fit in the process. The downside was obvious. Who ate us? Before it had been just that, speculation. Now, BB opened, plied. You get the percept ramp? I dulled. Yeah, I get it. Well then, BB went on. What's loosh got to do with learning? I opened slightly. And you got the rope before you came to Earth. BB smoothed. Like I gave you. It was in the TSI cruise brochure. It was in with hundreds of other rotes we got before we left. I opened more, but tightly. Where did the brochure come from? Why, yeah, from the cruise director. Where did he get it? BB flickered. I don't have a rote on that. He just dumped them on us and rolled. Here's the exciting and interesting stops we'll make on the cruise. I got a good percept because it was the last one we'd visit, so it was the last rote we got. That's why it was so clear. Some of the others are dim because they were in the middle. Not the Earth rote or humans. It's all clear, not wild at all. I hardened. And where did the cruise director come from? BB lighted. Oh, he and the rest are a bunch of curls from the system next to us. Why did they offer the cruise to you in KT-95? BB smoothed. Well, it was sort of a trade. We do it all the time with systems near us. What did they get in trade? BB lighted. Games. Games. We got more games than any system, 4 skips in any direction. I turned inward and closed. It was getting too hot to handle. If the rope was real, a huge if. I began to drop off. Anger, the feeling of being on the receiving end of a huge deception. The resentment at being manipulated, wanting to strike out at those who were conning me, us, all humans, who were taking something from us without our consent or permission. What happened to the freedom idea? Was every thought and action we took guided, no, directed and controlled just to produce more loosh, whatever that was, for a breakfast table or a fuel tank in a somewhere? And what could I do about it, even knowing? I dulled deeply and dropped off more and more. Hey, Ram. BB was fading rapidly. Where are you going? Return to the physical was near instantaneous, exactly as if I had pushed the panic button, which I had not done for so long. Strong sense of tiredness, both mental and physical. Neglected to check time of return. Low energy, no desire to do anything. Unable to get to sleep. Got up, went to the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. Sat and stared at the cup. With no energy or desire for exploration during the 2 weeks following, in a depressed state, the only production that surfaced was, "It is sunset."
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube, also at overwatchproject.com. Check out my website. I'm working on maybe doing a podcast with Spreaker.com, so stay tuned for that. I haven't finalized all the details of how I'm going to do that. But don't worry, it'll be automatically uploaded to my YouTube channel if I do that. So it'll just be more talking, less visual. Anyway, real quick, so I wanted to go into Robert Monroe's lOOSH account a little bit more in depth and come up with a whole different take on it. So I did a video recently where I was talking about, I was wondering if some people didn't have souls or spirits, because they're so mindless and so rigid, and some people just can't seem to reason outside of almost like an algorithm. So I remember some of the stuff I read in Far Journeys, and I wanted to reread it. Now with OBE phenomena, I was really resistant in accepting it at first, but there's so much consistency with so many different authors and so many different people that say they have had the experience, that it's kind of like the UFO phenomena, kind of like when John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist or psychologist, looked at the phenomena as a skeptic, but then became a believer because of his training in psychology and his analysis on people. As I'm listening to all these people, they seem credible to me. They seem to have a very consistent account of the phenomena, which is very similar to the near-death experience phenomena, but obviously has less verifiable data. The NDE is loaded with verifiable data. That's how you know that that's really happening. But the Robert Monroe, so he goes through this whole creation of basically the Earth, and how humanity was created, because we human forms, consciousness put into human form, produces this distilled lOOSH, which inadvertently Monroe is sort of describing the whole concept of the parasite reality, the matrix reality, or the way the Gnostics saw things, with the demiurge possibly being the someone who makes the universe. And I want to change what I said before. I don't think that consciousness, I don't think you could be anything be alive without some kind of soul, spirit, consciousness, energy. So I'm rereading his book, and I realized something that I sort of glossed over the first time, that kind of answers the question of why some people seem so different, or some people don't resonate with others, and some people do seem mindless. And then it occurred to me that some people just may be of a different source of consciousness. So you have the original creation of the earth, the original creation of design of the earth, the design of the whole universe, by the someone, and he talks about a garden, like almost like a visual that he's giving you in the book. But I think that it really refers to the whole material time-space illusion universe that we perceive from our human forms. So as he's describing this, he's also, in before the lOOSH account and after, he has made a friend in his OBE travels that he calls BB, which is an entity from another realm that had no knowledge of humanity and doesn't know what it's like to be human, doesn't even understand the concept of male-female. This entity, BB, had another friend with him that Monroe called AA. Monroe uses a lot of these neutral terms when he's describing things. He doesn't want to get bogged down into people thinking he was a spiritualist or anything like that. He tries to use neutral, objective terms. So he uses these kind of code nicknames for everything. So AA, friend of BB, gets caught up in the attraction or the seduction of the M-band noise, something that Monroe described as N-band noise. That's like mental bandwidth noise emanating from humanity, from Earth, from all the mind activity down here. And this is like a siren call, it seems like. Very attractive, very seductive. And eventually AA decides to incarnate here. What's fascinating is Monroe describes a kind of a gatekeeper or gatekeeping system where you have to agree to the risks before you can do it. And apparently it's explained to you in Monroe describes the exchange of information between entities in his book as coming from a rote or a thought bundle. So you get sent information, then you process it, and then you can send information back. There's no verbal communication, obviously. Consciousness without a body doesn't need to speak in words, and communication is much more expansive and thorough. And if I could only express to you the information I have to share with you without having to use words, which I struggle with to articulate things well. So forgive me if I go on too long. Anyway, the whole thing is that it occurred to me that some people some incarnations as humans are from places that get pulled here, spirits, entities that get pulled here. And when you look at the whole Gnostic concept, when you look at some of the stuff that's in Tibetan Book of the Dead, it sort of describes that some of us want to go home. Monroe felt that he had some home to return to. NDE people and near-death experiencers, they somehow report a vague returning of memory after when they're in the NDE state, and they have this memory of a home they have to go back to. But if that home isn't here, then where is it? Why or were they here? Maybe they get caught up in this M-band noise. Maybe I'm one of these. Okay. Now this would mean, if you take Monroe's work at face value, and you read what he's writing there, you have the creation of Earth, the whole material universe, and then humanity eventually as one of the versions, which is fascinating, because I've always felt, after looking at the arguments between the creationists and the evolutionists, that both of these sides were so wrong, okay, and that the real stuff that you see here in the archaeological record looks more like versioning. Like you design something, oh no, I could do better. Just like when you're making an app on a computer, that you have version alpha, beta, and then you have version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 2.0, and that's how things look when you're looking at the record here. So here you have a description of this someone that going through versioning of life here in this time-space illusion to create consciousness, or to create life that apparently consciousness is implanted into, so that the consciousness can be limited and can be in conflict. That's really what's being described. Even though Monroe doesn't even, I don't think Monroe realized, which makes it even more valuable. He did not know that he was describing that. He was troubled by the whole lOOSH creation thing, but he didn't realize, what else it implied with his story. I don't think Monroe ever knew about Gnostic concepts, or the demiurge archons, or the matrix reality, parasitic stuff. Anyway, just in case you're thinking, well, how could someone design an entire universe like this? I just want you to point out a game I play on PlayStation. This is a game called No Man's Sky. It's not a shoot 'em up game, but it is a kind of an exploration puzzle game. And this game takes up only 6 gigs on my PlayStation, but you can explore a universe with over 18 quintillion planets. Gamers will complain that in order to explore everything in this game, it would take 5 billion years. Now, it only took a few years to develop this game, and a very small amount of people, I think only 2 or 3 people actually worked on it, and it's all code. And in fact, science today is starting to say our universe looks like a simulation, right? Why was it created? It was created because of this, according to Monroe anyway, for lOOSH production. Excuse me, I'm going to silence my phone so we don't get interrupted anymore. Anyway, the whole concept is fascinating, but that would mean that there is a default class of human consciousness. that may still be reincarnating here. And then there's consciousness from other places that come by here or gets tuned in to the M-band noise, gets drawn here and agrees. And I think AA, I think what happens is what Monroe described is that the entity AA gets so caught up in trying to rush to experience this human existence that once AA wanted to do it so bad, didn't really take the time to understand the risks. Who knows? Maybe that happened to a lot of people. There's a lot of humans here right now, 7 billion, okay, plus, right? So perhaps we are, some of us, from places that we want to get back to. When we tried this, and it's a really big fucking mistake because this place is a fucking shithole, and we want to get the hell out of here. So it's like a combination of a game and lOOSH farm, or for parasites to feed off of, whatever this lOOSH energy does. Just exploring the possibilities here, folks. I don't know. I am reading a book by Sandy Gustis now. It's really good so far. Lesson complete. I'll link to everything you see in the description below. There's just some her interview and just some other videos about out-of-body experiences. And the Monroe Institute. And so I like I said, I'm working on, I set up an account with Spreaker.com, and I'm just going to play around with that for a little while, see how that works out. But something to think about. So what do you think? Do you think that, some of us, that we're all not the same consciousness in human form? See, we're not human anyway. No consciousness is human. This whole thing, I just wanted to say one more thing here. This whole concept of the human form, or the astral body, as some people call it, and in fact some people describe in their first OBE, when they first experience an OBE, that they have like this ghost image of their human form. But if they do it enough, they all seem to report that they lose that. They don't need it anymore. And in fact, that's probably correct. Consciousness is energy, information. It is an individual point of being, and there's a lot of that around. It exists in some kind of field of, I guess, ultimate consciousness, which is sort of like what these individual points use. We're all like apps in a giant operating system. I don't know. I'm just trying to. I don't know, but like if you listen to Graham Nichols, he talks about being just like a sphere or a point. Monroe also eventually lost his human form. He called it like different stages of an astral body, where you are not. He doesn't use the word astral body, but his focuses and whatever else terminology he used. But it's possible that consciousness can assume any form. So when you're in the human form, it sort of the energy of our consciousness sort of adopts that form. But there's clear information from OBEers that you can reincarnate on a different world in this universe, with different life forms. I don't know if that's true, but it's fascinating because you wouldn't be human. So human is just a form that we're plugged into right now. Excuse me. So, sorry about that. So, that's it. I just wanted to make this quick video, give you an update on my channel here, possibly go on a Spreaker. Like I said, any podcasts will be automatically uploaded to my YouTube channel. And I'll let you know when that happens. Before
you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind.
ticket.